We are back, and it is time, of course, to draft another Best Ball Mania team. Even though the puppy is out, we are still chasing $3 million here.
Yes, it is Best Ball Mania 4 season. The puppy's out with $75K to first place, but Pete and I are already in a room ready to go here. And Pete, to celebrate the transition of Best Ball Breakfast starting, well, I guess Best Ball Breakfast timing starting on Tuesday for Splash Play, I'm going to introduce you to a little special thing I'm doing for Cinco de Mayo. Sipping tequila here. Listen to that sweet pour of tequila on ice at 12 p.m. East Coast time.
Yeah, Spags texted me this morning at like 9 a.m. He's like, hey, just FYI, I wanted to extend an invite to you if you want to drink tequila with me on stream at noon Eastern time. I literally have the final sip of my coffee still going, and Spags wants me, taking a bit of the hair of the dog here.
I will tell you, so just so everybody's aware, so we're all on the same page heading into this draft. I have drank, I think, roughly 75 ounces of water today, had a protein shake, double scoop Pete of not Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles protein, and now I'm drinking tequila. So this is going to potentially go terribly for me over the course of this next hour.
Yeah, and this is the thing too. It is such a dilemma because at our old age, I do really love the concept of day drinking, but it's a fine line, right? Whereas like if you fly too close to the sun, then you just ruin your whole evening. And Spags, we're now in the same boat where you have to take care of small children, and doing that while inebriated or hungover or exhausted is not fun. So like I am very purposeful with my drinking because I just will not be able to enjoy myself if I don't, time it perfectly.
What's going to happen is I'm going to have a buzz going throughout like the next few hours and not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to drink the rest of the day, because we do have the nanny over today, but we are going to be taking care of a baby at roughly 6 p.m. So, or 5:30 p.m. or so. So I will be in a weird spot, Pete. I'll admit that, but I'll probably just be drunkenly hammering puppies. And I'm in the 3-hole here. So I'm going to make my pick coming up. Christian McCaffrey on the board, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. I'm going to take Tyreek Hill here and not be a running back pig because I refuse to embarrass myself before I actually embarrass myself on the stream.
No, there's 18 rounds. You have plenty of chances to embarrass yourself. I will say, Spags, I hate to do this to you. This is actually my BBM draft number 8. If you want to update the ticker down below.
Oh, my apologies. I've been missing. Which 7 was on?
7 was ship chasing. Okay. Yeah.
Let me get that right. And shout out to everybody, by the way, who's been joining us and certainly commenting a bunch on the stream. Pete, we had over 200 comments on that last stream. People trying to get their way to win your riches. Of course, Pete giving away $500 to 3 different people if he hits 15,000 subs. And I got to say, Pete, from the Splash Play side of things, looking good as you were on the clock here.
Yeah, I appreciate. I saw we had a ton of comments. I mean, Spags was over here just rock hard about all the engagement going on the channel. I was fully prepared to take Bijan here, but Cooper Kupp slides to pick 7, so I will draft Cooper Kupp here.
Definitely seen some sharp people talking this week about how Cooper Kupp should be a number 3 overall ADP guy, both on DraftKings probably and Underdog as well. Certainly a player, Pete, that I feel like has lost a little bit of luster, but boy, the Rams defense is going to be a lot worse, a lot less weapons for the Rams this year as well. So if you think they can be at least not completely tanking away the year, I feel like Cooper Kupp probably is a little bit undervalued.
Yeah, I definitely like the Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill versus Kupp is very close. But I think he's in that tier for sure. And I guess the Eckler is the really kind of the rogue pick here relative to the standard ADP that pushes him down. But yeah, I guess I'm just not going to overthink it with Kupp. I think old Pete would be like, I don't like this offense. This team's going to suck. Like, I just want to fade it. But Cooper Kupp has been so good in so many different situations that I just don't have too many concerns for him. Joshua Frick in the chat says it's crazy. I have more BBMs than Pete. It's the opposite of crazy. I can only draft teams on stream. You could draft them whenever you want. It would make sense for everyone to have more drafts done than me.
I actually now have 15 done, and this will be, I think, my number 16 in Best Ball Mania 4. I also, Pete, got 15 done on the arch rival DraftKings as well, taking advantage of some of the soft drafters in there where I'll tell you, I got a Monra St. Brown at pick 30. I know you're not a DK best ball guy, Pete, but boy, some inefficient pricing, just people drafting stupidly on some of those DraftKings streams.
Yeah, I did see you guys in the Splash Play channel. There's lots of conversation, lots of screenshots going on over there. I'm going to have to hop in. I want to do a couple of the 555s. I am on the clock here. How much of this is actually a pretty running back heavy draft, I think, relative, to some of these. When you have Nick Chubb go at pick 16, normally, I'm just kind of on autopilot clicking running backs here. I'm going to take Tony Pollard, though, a little early, because I have a feeling I might like my wide receiver option a bit more.
Pollard's steam is getting to be a little bit much. I know that certainly no competition coming in the form of the draft, but some rumors out there that Zeke could come back on a decreased deal. Also, frankly, I think Rojo is being slept on a little bit too much, though. I guess if Pat Corrine, whose nickname on the Underdog streets is Daily Rojo, is not drafting him, I worry a little bit. But I still think there are some ways Pollard is not worth this pick. I know that I get why you take him here, Pete, but I do feel like he's a little bit too frothy.
I don't think it's frothy. I'm trying to make a read on this room though, and in a few of the things that I see, like I said, Eckler at 6, Chubb at 16. I'm gonna just try to play this game a little bit here.
All right, that's fair. I would certainly, I mean, Chubb going early there. It's weird because we're obviously doing this draft. We start the draft right before the stream starts. So if you're wondering how you could play along with us, that is a way to do it. Basically, join the stream like 1 minute before we go. Oh, I'm getting the Waddle here, huh? Yeah, I
Premium
guess I'll
double.
take Waddle because he doesn't fall to 22 too often.
Yeah, the problem with this logic though, Spags, is when you reach for Tyreek Hill, the Hill Waddle combo is actually relatively easy to get at ADP. So I'm not saying you shouldn't take Waddle, but like the Waddle slide is useless to you after you reach for Hill.
It's funny because I actually have been using that same logic where I pivot off of one part of the stacks for the most part, or if I have like Chase and maybe even Chase and Higgins, sometimes I will eschew Burrow in some of the drafts so far. I guess at least I have one of those guys. Sometimes I'll eschew Burrow. In this one, though, I have not gotten a lot of Miami doubles, even though I know they are pretty popular out there. So I'll hope I can get different somewhere else. But I agree, pretty common start for me. But one, I find it hard to be mad at a Miami start, I guess, would be the main thing.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm torn on it. The one thing that is nice, I guess, compared to say the Burrow premium, like getting, Tua in round 8, 9, or 10 is generally where he's going. At least that makes, completing the stack a little cheaper. Whereas with Burrow, you're going to normally have to use, 3 of your top 4 picks to get that premium stack, which I think gets a little tough. And I think people will do you think we'll see some people reach for AJ Brown in the first to try to set up an AJ Brown, Hurts, Devonta Smith, where you use your first 3 picks? I bet that will be a popular Galaxy Brain start as well.
So it's actually worked out pretty well for me because of everybody taking running backs. I was thinking about taking Olave over Waddle. I get him anyway here. So a Hill Waddle Olave start here feels pretty explosive to me.
Yeah, I have 3 guys I really want here and 3 guys picking ahead of me. So I'll be curious to see how this breaks, or if I am left at the end of a tier. 1 goes Jalen Hurts, who is already well past ADP of 19, falls all the way to 28. If I am going to get any of these elite quarterback shares, it's going to be like that when they slide, around past ADP. So I would have happily have selected Hurts here. I have 2 guys on the board I want. And if not, okay, a rogue pick goes Henry. So I'm okay with Mark Andrews or Ramondre Stevenson with this next pick. Don't mind DK Metcalf either.
Yeah, I normally don't mind Metcalf as a guy. If I'm going 0 RB especially, I feel like I do get a good amount of Metcalf at this portion of the draft. I do have to say, though, again, I was starting the point, but I don't think I finished it. Because in your streams lately, Pete, because you are streaming every draft, of course, if you guys have missed that, you're getting so many wide receiver heavy rooms, but this is a running back heavy room that I feel like we normally don't get when we're doing content just because of the way that we are now starting drafts right before the stream.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see, there's now 3 picks that have been kind of, or you can include my Tony Pollard one as being ahead. Eckler, Barkley at 14 isn't that a smidge ahead of what his ADP is? Yeah, no, that's right at ADP, I guess. So yeah, I guess maybe the jury's still a little bit out, but then you get the Najee pick, right? Like this drafter here is certainly living a little out of the 6 hole. If you're going Eckler, Wilson's fine, and then Harris, though, that's a full round and a half ahead of ADP on Harris.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a reach for Najee. I know there's a lot of Pittsburgh fans because I've talked about I do like the Pittsburgh offense overall and think that there's a lot of rubber that's meeting the road this year for both Pittsburgh offensive coordinator Matt Canada as well as just Kenny Pickett's future for that team, where if he doesn't come through this year, you got to think they're going to look in a different direction potentially. Najee, though, is kind of rising with that tide, Pete, and I question that. Like, I think I'd rather have Jalen Warren at 160 than take Najee at, his normal range was a 40, definitely more than taking Najee at 30 and reaching for him.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to, pile on guys who might be doing their first Best Ball Mania draft. They're getting a lay of the land. But if you are approaching it from a portfolio perspective, just knowing, hey, you can do a ton of these drafts and get Najee Harris in the 4th round every time. You quickly will learn that, once you do a couple of drafts. But it is a good reminder too, when you are first starting and hopping in, showing a little patience there and respecting the ADP a bit, I think is wise. All All right, let's see here. I definitely am taking a wide receiver. No questions on that. I'll go my guy Christian Watson here.
So yeah, you are where I am as well, where I do eschew a lot of DeAndre Hopkins, kind of reach over, grab Christian Watson. I don't mind that at all. I also got a lot of questions, Pete, the comments. A lot of people were mostly confused by us. My hate of Saquon Barkley, which has been public. I've written Football Outsider articles about it. Like, I've been pretty clear about my stance. I find him to be a mid running back who's just mostly volume dependent. Now that he hasn't signed his franchise tag, now that they also drafted a 5th round running back and Eric Gray that I think is pretty good. That's why I tend to find it hard to buy in on Saquon, who's kind of a pure volume guy. You have been a little more agnostic towards Saquon, but people were surprised that you didn't push back at all. So where are you landing currently with Saquon? Because he's very public popular, but I think for guys like us, maybe a little bit less popular.
I just think Saquon's in the same tier for me as Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Ramondre Stevenson, Derrick Henry. And he's going, 4 to 5 picks ahead of that cohort. So I'm just going to have very little of a guy that I think is part of a tier where he's going specifically ahead of them. If he was part of that tier, I would be mixing him in with those same guys, but I'm just not of the belief that he's a cut above those guys.
So this is actually going to be my first share, I think, of this player. It definitely in Best Ball Mania, might be in the big board. I do not take a lot of Falcons. I'm just not a believer in, Falcons receivers, I guess is a better way to put that. But I do think there's a chance New Orleans, Atlanta playing in week 17 could be there. So I'm going to take Drake London here, Pete. I believe in the talent. I do not believe in the coaching and just how they're going to run that offense.
Yeah, he's been one that I've been like you kind of clicking him a good bit there. Gretsch made some really good points against fading him at that spot. He was basically benchmarking him to George Pickens and Treylon Burks' ADP going later and saying he views him very similar to those guys. I think you can say Drake London, better prospect, maybe even a more encouraging rookie year, but the situation in Pittsburgh and maybe Tennessee will be a little bit more conducive. So I get his argument there. And it did make me think, hey, instead of reaching for Drake London, like I am kind of known to do sometimes there, maybe being a little bit more price conscious, just with that kind of, I thought compelling argument in the back of my head.
I think that's fair. And certainly to me, the main reason here is because I got Olave cheap. I don't feel like Olave falls very often in drafts. I know Pete and I both took him at the 20 spot last week, but I'm on the clock here again. Definitely some players I like. I like McLaurin here. Don't mind Christian Kirk, who definitely is more of a close friend of Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley is so far, which we can talk about in a second. Miles Sanders, Pittman. I like McLaurin a little bit more than Pittman, but we all know what I might try to do later. So I am going to take Pittman here for my 5th receiver in the first 5 rounds.
All right. You're a true piss boy. Crowd favorite here on Splash Play.
I'm drinking something that looks like piss, Pete. A nice watery piss here in my Terramana and Yeho. I'm pissing on the stream. I feel good about it. I've been taking too many running backs lately.
Yeah, you have. This feels like a sweet spot for a tight end. George Kittle, a few picks past ADP. I've definitely been making this click a bit. I need to make sure that I do end up with some Dallas Goedert, because a lot of times if like Kittle falls and then I'm always selecting Kittle, then that means I'm, most likely not selecting Dallas Goedert, but I'll continue to take Kittle in this range. I mean, he paid off a slightly earlier draft tag than this last year just because of what he did down the stretch in the fantasy playoffs. And now he's going even a few picks later than that. And yeah, I don't know. I continue to really like the builds with elite quarterbacks in Best Ball Mania. Now that we're down to 18 roster spots instead of the 20, I find the 3 tight end builds to be far less palatable. If I'm doing a 3 position at a onesie, I really want it to be the quarterback. So I'm getting those additional stacks in. So getting a guy like Kittle that locks in me only having to take 2 tight ends always feels pretty good.
Yeah, I've been taking less elite tight ends than I did last year. Or if you remember last summer streams, and again, Pete and I have been streaming a lot of these. So there's a lot of new people, I think, who are starting to do this content. So if I would swear by our content, especially Pete, who's been doing this longer than anybody I know. I think you've probably done more stream drafts. That said, last year I was just basically taking elite tight ends every time. This year I actually have taken some more late 3 tight end builds where I'm not taking elite, and then I'll take 3 tight ends after 11, 12. I'll take 3 of them. I think that's the way you can get away with 3 tight ends. But if you're taking 1 elite and then 3 tight ends overall, or 1 semi-elite and 3 tight ends, you're probably making a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, my whole take on the 3 tight end thing in general is just pretty simplified. It's the lowest scoring position. You can only get 2 of them in your lineup each week. And it's very, very unlikely that you're flexing a tight end in general. So to devote, 3 picks to that spot, just doesn't make sense to me unless you get completely boxed out, in which case I get it. All right, let's build around a little San Francisco stuff. We can set up the drama. Which of the quarterbacks will I take? Will it be Lance? Will it be Darnold? Will it be Purdy? I'll take Brandon Ayuk here.
Are you starting to level out? Because I know the people who've watched your stream certainly have seen you take a lot of Trey Lance in internet content. Are you going to start to get in some Brock Purdy just to try to cover both bases there? Obviously not trying to draft both guys in the same team.
Well, I don't know if you saw at the Warriors game last night. It's actually Sam Darnold is the one hanging out with Christian McCaffrey. And was it George Kittle who was at the game? So it is, I mean, you look at the ADPs for these guys now, right? These quarterbacks. You got Trey Lance at 156.8. You got Purdy at 195.9. It Darnold at 215.3. And like, you really can make arguments in favor of any one of these guys, I think is the point I'm at now. So I'll let the draft come to me. I have not selected Trey Lance in BBM yet, unless one of my fact checkers here can remind me of a Lance share I'm forgetting, but I don't believe I have.
Interesting. Okay, that's fair. I actually took a Trey Lance share the other day just because I got kind of boxed out at QB and was like, oh, I don't believe in it that much. But I was also so heavy Trey Lance last year that I definitely have a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But Lance getting cheap now, past I think a 150 ADP, might be closer to 160 now. So it makes sense to take some Trey Lance, even though he and Brock Purdy still have about a 35 ADP draft point difference between them. So I feel like if you are going to take Trey Lance, you want to get some Purdy in there or some Darnold, I guess, apparently, if you want to really cover your Niners bases. I did just take Rachaad White here. Gosh, there's going to be a while before I pick again. All right, Pete, pulling it off.
What pick are we now taking, Anthony? Did you just take Anthony Richardson at pick 75? That's what we're doing now?
I think he's going to rise.
Chill. Yeah, there's nowhere to rise to. You're taking him at where you think he's going to rise. You can just get him there the rest of the summer.
I want to get my Anthony Richardson now, Pete. I have Pittman on the team, and I also think there's a chance people might just leave Tua alone. So I'm not going to reach for Tua. I'm going to reach for Anthony Richardson and get my mobile QB, who I have over 40% of so far.
Spags, that's where he's going to end up. Oh, God.
I want him. What if he goes to 60? It's not crazy.
All right, I'll just keep value hounding here and take Mike Evans. I've ended up with a lot of Mike Evans. I'm really confused why. I think he's like his age and that quarterback situation is fully baked into this ADP, and now he's sliding 9 picks past that, almost to pick 80. I'm gonna slam Mike Evans every time there.
I think that's fair. And honestly, I was thinking Mike Evans too, because I do have Rachaad White. Would have certainly made sense. But who am I going to stack with? I don't believe in Baker Mayfield. I think Kyle Trask might be a little bit better, but I want to draft him. So I'm going with 10 minutes, just saying, hear me out. Richardson will be the QB9 by the end of the summer, going in the 6th round. I kind of agree. I think he's going to be treated as a top 10 QB. So I'm getting my shares now. And then if he happens to get to the 50s, maybe even 40s, I wouldn't be shocked, just because people are going to get frothier, I think, when they hear those camp reports and hear that he's locked in as being a starter.
I don't think you're an idiot, Spags. Part of it is that I'm jealous because I continue to not have an Anthony Richardson share because idiots like you continue to take him wildly ahead. But yeah, no, I agree with the premise. He is going to get steamed up. And I literally put out a best ball tip video today, specifically using Anthony Richardson as an example. I think my quote was, if you don't like Anthony Richardson at pick 100, you're really not going to like him at pick 70. I've been trying to get some shares around pick 90 to 100. And I might even miss my window on that. So just please, for the love of God, will one of you let me get Anthony Richardson between pick 90 and 100 here?
I'm not going to. I think that's the logic here. Paul said he had to stop his mower. Spags always gives great reasoning for his picks, then lives a little with AR. I still think there's great reasoning for Anthony Richardson that, look, I don't think it's the likeliest possibility. Pete, would you argue, or would you agree with me rather, there's more than a 1% chance that Anthony Richardson ends up the top fantasy QB, or let's say a top 3 fantasy QB this year?
Say what percentage did you assign?
I would say let's say over a 1% chance, maybe even over a 5% chance.
I think the true odds, I definitely over a 1%. Like I would make bets on that if you were giving me those kind of odds. The fair stuff is what? Probably in like the 5 to 7% range. Like when you look at the profiles of who can actually finish, I do really think that is well within that range of outcomes. And you're being realistic about it too. Like you're not saying he has a 25% chance to do it. It is still an outlier outcome, but I like it.
And so K-Bach takes Tua there with no stack with him, so that's fine. I've already gotten different from the Dolphin stacks, like I thought I would at some point. Did a little bit earlier, perhaps than anticipated. And do like Michael Thomas, but I've already got 5 wide receivers here. Evan Ingram sliding a little. You know what? Because I'm stacking Richardson. I'm going to take Jacksonville. Maybe Indianapolis plays Jacksonville week 17, so I'll take Evan Ingram here.
I do want to point out someone was thought that I just zoomed past Cam Akers with my 7th round pick there, taking Mike Evans. Well, Cam Akers did fall to me at pick 90, building out my Rams bet. Total value hound move here. I'm just scooping up the value in this room, Spags.
Which is a smart thing to do. And some of us are just going out, getting the players we want. And I just want all the Richardson. I really think, this has been my heels being dug in, was that he was going to get drafted by the Colts. That has now happened. So I'm just going to go crazy on it. And hopefully that is the right decision. And if hopefully he doesn't get hurt in training camp, I guess that's the other thing I'm really hoping for.
Yeah, that I think you can put that caveat over every single pick we make right now. I really hope this guy doesn't get hurt over let me check notes. Oh yeah, the next fucking 5 months.
I do have a couple QB outs, but I got to tell you, kind of appealing to me to get Daniel Jones at this point, who is getting a little bit cheaper. I think the rushing ability here, I do like taking 2 rushing QBs. If you've seen me in drafts, you might have seen me take some of Justin Fields along with Anthony Richardson lately. So I'll take Daniel Jones here and I'll get some cheap Giants late, and I have no issue with that.
Daniel Jones is probably one of, again, a guy I do not think I've selected yet, but I want to get, because one thing we're really experiencing, and the whole reason you're taking Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, is if you miss out on the elite quarterbacks, when it's very hard to pull the trigger on those guys at their prices, is there just is not a lot of quarterback upside late. It really, really vanishes. And the nice thing about Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson is there's lots of backdoor stack options. I mean, there's so much with the, let's see, I am building out, man. See, now I'm going to have to, I don't really think this is like a running back sweet spot range here. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to have to go Juju Smith Poopster here and grab a wide receiver, building out my New England bet. Feeling just a smidge behind the 8 ball at wide receiver, trying to catch up here.
Yeah, I like Juju, honestly. I mean, we've talked about this. I think, adding Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator is going to be a big improvement on what Matt Patricia did last year. And then if Juju, like this comp is that, he's going to be Jacoby Myers. Okay, so let's say he is Jacoby Myers. If, with an offensive coordinator upgrade, I think this is where Jacoby Myers is going last year. I think Juju is a slightly better player with a little more upside, and they're paying him more money. So I think Juju's undervalued. But then the plus side, Pete, is you can also get Mac Jones for free. You get Tyquan late, like, Patriot stacks late, I think, are a little bit undervalued, especially if you do grab Juju around the spot and have a little bit of foresight.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize the Patriots might be one of the more polarizing teams, because on the one hand, lots of people I respect are in on the Pats, in on cheap Mac Jones, in on cheap Tyquan Thornton. And then a lot of people chirp and they're like, what do you see with the Patriots? Why are you selecting Tyquan Thornton? This offense is going to be bad again. But I do think there are some actual tangible changes to that offense this year. Just having some semblance of an offensive coordinator and some kind of continuity there this year, I think will be a big help. And, like I said, it's really hard to find any kind of upside late in drafts. And yes, we can argue whether Mac Jones has upside, but at cost, the kind of stacks you can build with Ramondre, Juju, and then some of those backdoor guys, it is just a really nice way to get some correlation at a cheap price.
I agree. Who are you going to pick here?
This is another kind of running back sweet spot zone. I might end up with kind of like a modified hyper fragile thing. I'm just going to keep doing my teammate buddies. I'm going to go now do Dylan wants to be friends with Christian Watson. Cooper Kupp wants to be friends with Cam Akers, and Ramondre wants his buddy Juju.
The shower narrative going to a new length here. It's not about them sharing previous things. It's about who wants to be buddies with each other. Who could you see being pals?
That's right. And, it's just like, everybody wants to have a friend on a team. No one wants to be alone in the locker room. A lot of people talk about correlation for us, but it's also really about the guys just having kind of an ally there in the trenches.
All right, I'm at a 2-1-5-1 build. Certainly could take a receiver, but none of them are looking that great to me at this point. I do think Damian Harris and Samaje Perine are kind of similar players to me in terms of their opportunity. Perine maybe a little more, but I am going to go Damian Harris here.
Yeah, I was seeing if you had any kind of divisional round tiebreakers, but not really.
Miami, I guess. It could be Harris against Miami in week 17, maybe.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that seems valid.
The pockets of the draft, this is sometimes what happens too when you value hound. You know, normally that Akers pick for me is a wide receiver around that range. And so it's kind of pushed me out of, I would say, the ADP sweet spots as far as where the positions, because this really is a nice range. You see Herbert, A-Chain, you take Harris, Eli Mitchell's on the board, P. Ryan just came off the board. You still got Kendre Miller and stuff like that. So generally, I would prefer to be taking running backs in this range, but we're going to, flip the build here a little bit, so to speak.
A-Chain's off the board, went right before I was picking, so that's why I'm not grabbing him. I am going to get Elijah Mitchell, get some leverage on Pete, get a guy who could take a meaningful role here. And I also will quickly ask you guys to subscribe right now. Usually I think we have about 55% of people watching the channel right now who are not subscribed, so please do that right now. Not only are you going to see the Tuesday streams with Pete on the Splash Play channel, my Friday solo stream startup. If you think this tequila here is crazy, it'll certainly get crazier here as I'm trying to stack up everything in the coming weeks on those Fridays. So please come hang out here on Splash Play, where we do fantasy football year round, and genuinely appreciate you liking and commenting as well. Yeah, I think these teams, Pete, I think I might win the public vote. I hope I do, despite reaching for a Rich.
Wow. Yeah, we will see. I'm sure there's a few running back piggies out there that are excited to vote for me here. What do I want to do?
Let's take Kyler. Live a little. Why not?
I'm going to live a little bit with a rookie. I'm continuing because I'm going to go with a 3 quarterback build. I need to set up some potential stacks and give myself a few different options here coming down the pike. So I'm going to take Jonathan Mingo, a guy who I do think is going to settle around a 9th or 10th round pick when the summer's over. And so we are going to live a little and grab him ahead of ADP.
I have to say, and I guess I don't know that I want this to be a flag plant, because I do think I'm going to draft some Mingo. The draft capital's there for him. He's built like AJ Brown. These are all positive things. He really didn't do what people think he's going to do in college. Like, he was a slot guy who ran a lot of low A dot routes and was a bit of a mauler as a blocker, which I think is part of why Carolina liked him. They've said as much in some of the quotes. I don't think he's like this electric rookie receiver who's going to come out and be like crazy, getting downfield outside and all that. And it's certainly possible. Like, players in college run the routes they're asked to run. That's a key thing to remember if you are drafting these guys. But I worry that the draft capital's pushing people, and the athletic profile, push people a little more towards Mingo than they probably should, when he might be receiver Darnell Washington, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, this is just going to be one of those things that I don't overthink. The new regime spent significant draft capital on him, and it is the least competitive wide receiver depth chart in the league. And so those two things really push it toward being a target for me. And again, I'm continuing to operate under the thesis: we don't have the schedule out. What are the one things we can do right now? And it's try to capture some good closing line value on guys. And could he rise up to the 8th round and be a bust? Absolutely. But again, if I want my Mingo shares, because those doubts and those red flags become a lot more pronounced when he's a 9th and 10th round pick than when you're selecting him in like the 11th and 12th round. And so I'd rather get my shares now before I really start to have sticker shock later.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely fair. And I think Mingo, probably one of the biggest big board risers in terms of where those guys were before the NFL draft to where they are now. So it's probably Mingo, Roshan, I guess Rashi Rice, maybe A-Chain. Those guys are there. So get your Mingo now. He's just one of those guys. I think the volume won't be there as much as people think, but we'll find out certainly in another 5 months as you take Jordan Love to add to your Packers best buddies build.
Yep, it was time to start taking some quarterbacks, 0 quarterbacks through the first 11 rounds. I do have Watson and Dylan here, and so I select Jordan Love right at ADP, the first of 3 quarterbacks here on this team.
Anybody you're seeing besides us drafting an interesting team? I feel like K-Bach is taking players that I'm intrigued by, but I'm not really seeing a unifying theme overall. I guess stacking Herbert with Eckler, but I don't know. That stands out to me as not the ideal way to draft. And I'm not saying that just because he sniped me on Tua, but let me make my pick first. Kyler Murray falling. Evan Ingram is my tight end right now. I've taken so much of this guy. You know what? I'm just going to get Kendre Miller. I've taken so much for Rashawn Johnson. I have over 50% in the big board. I will take Kendre here.
Miller is such a good pick there. If I wasn't in quarterback hell, I would have smashed Kendre at that pick a few picks before.
Yeah, we are both, I think, believers in Kendra being able to be there in week 17. It's no Kamara for half a season potentially. No, Jamal Williams, I think, just doesn't have the juice. Kendra is in the best spot, I think, or one of the at least top 3 spots besides like a Bijan to be a guy who in week 17 could be getting 15 touches and having them be like high efficiency, explosive touches.
Well, the thing is I mean, I was never discounting, a lot of these rookies' ability to contribute in week 17. I think that's the allure. The thing that's nice about Kendre Miller is he might get it right out of the gate. With this suspension, he might get on the field. It's not even waiting for the chaos to kick in. The chaos might just happen before the season even starts. And so if you're getting a guy like this that not only has the late season upside, but is going to be on the field right away, I mean, that's such a nice price to be getting an asset like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's completely a fair way to look at it. So I'm at a 2-4-5-1 build. I do like Roshan and Deonta in this range, which doesn't make the most sense for me. There's not anybody. Did Pierce already go? Already took Alec Pierce pretty early. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to press running back more. I'm going to get one more Roshan. Why not?
Spags, did you forget to tweet out this episode? I was just looking for it. I don't think I did a
No, I
retweet.
retweeted it. Or
did I get tagged?
Yeah, it says you're the lead, actually. The puppy is out, but Peter Overzet's quest for 150 stream BBM4 drafts continues on Splash Play Pod.
Dude, Elon. Oh, I missed it. Sorry. All right. Here, incoming engagement farmer boost. I missed that earlier.
Shout out to Nick. By the way, shout out to everybody watching live. Finally get to watch the streams live again. Splash Play over classes. We love hearing people in class, by the way. Love that there's college-age people who watch our show with Pete and my youthful demeanors. But, of course, we will be up on 10 a.m. on Tuesday doing a doubleheader there. So that'll be the new flagship where it'll be one show on Pete's channel, one show on the Splash Play channel in a row together. And, of course, they'll both count towards Pete's BBM4 giveaways and quests to draft 150 teams. And you take Bryce Young here, who I also think is another undervalued stack just because it's easy to get him late.
Yeah, and I mean, I took Mingo. I know I'm headed toward a 3 quarterback build, talking about how there really is so little quarterback upside late. I know most people are sold on Young from a floor standpoint relative to the upside, but I think there still always is that black box nature to the rookies here. Maybe he runs a little bit more than we're expecting. And I took Mingo too. So if that bet is going to hit, those two are obviously going to be correlated there. So, baking in a little bit of a rookie upside on this team.
And then next Friday, by the way, because Pete's talking about it here, I will be trying to stack up every team starting next Friday. I think the branding for that will be Spag Stacks. I think will be what we're going to call that. Unless I think it's something better before Friday, but we'll be trying to grab these teams, and I think hopefully they'll be helpful for somebody out there. Here's an interesting chat. Joe came here to say my BF is the best. Pete, I don't have a side girlfriend. I presume you don't either. So who's boyfriend?
I'm wondering too, because is this the first ever time that someone in a relationship has had their significant other come hype them up in the chat as a commenter? Because is that what just happened, Joe? Who is your BF? We got to get to the bottom of this, because I was gonna have you pull that comment up if you did. So glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, same page. I mean, it just stands out. Like, there's not a lot of women here. We have our woman Hope, who does a great job streaming on her own channel. We have Johannes, who sometimes is here. Maybe that is Johannes. I guess I don't know. I think she changed her name. So we have a few ladies. Blitz is in the chat, but definitely nobody who's in boyfriend age who's coming in and touting them.
Incredible stuff there.
Of course, Josh. I'll claim Joe. Yeah, of course he would.
Let's see here. This is an interesting range. I probably am going to land on 5 running backs regardless. I'm gonna go ahead and just take Jaylen Warren, and now I'm done at running back.
What's your running back room? So Pete's running back room so far: Pollard, Ramondre, Akers, Dillon, and you take Jaylen Warren to round it out. That does feel like a pretty solid running back room to call it quits.
Yeah, 2 in the top 30 plus 1 at 90, and then rounded out with 2 more there. So my build, I need 1 more quarterback, 1 more tight end, and then 2 more wide receivers is probably what I'm looking at here.
And I am on the clock again. Haven't stacked any Giants yet. Did pass on Jalen Hyatt earlier just because I don't love that ADP for him still. Wandale, though, is cheap enough. Anytime you can draft a guy under 200 pounds coming off an ACL tear who now has 5 guys competing for his role, you got to take him. But I think Wandale still has probably the biggest ceiling in that Giants wide receiver core.
Yeah, I had a comment on one of my videos where they said Darren Waller is the only guy I trust on the Giants as far as the pass catchers. which I do think it's fair to say he's the guy that you should trust the most. But I do still think Wandell is a cut above the rest of the guys that they have on the team. Like if I tier it, it's like Darren Waller tier 1, Wandell tier 2, and then like a big tier 3 with the rest of the lot.
Josh asked me, when do we get a live Luka draft? Luka is only 1 year old and change, so he's not quite adept enough to do that. But if you want to see him dunking a basketball on our little tyke soup, you can see that on my Twitter. Is Pete, I don't post a lot of baby stuff anymore because I don't want people to be looking at it. I realize I don't want people to look at the baby all the time. That said, adorable video, I think. Out of all the videos,
it was good content, Spags. I felt something inside for the first time watching that video. Small child.
A lot of pride for the boy. All right. I'm going to take Josh Downs here. I do like him. He is a player that in college graded out to me as a better player than Zay Flowers in terms of the production. He was my favorite slot in the class besides JSN. And honestly, his numbers looked a lot closer to JSN than people realize. Anthony Richardson, not a good short ball thrower. That is his biggest flaw. Deadly inaccurate, under 10 air yards or less. But still, I think Josh Downs, Pete, is a guy that I like a lot, who I don't think you and I have talked much about. I don't think I ever touted Josh Downs to you, and I don't think I've seen you draft Josh Downs very much.
No, I haven't. I think I had a sprinkle of him in the big board. I mean, and I assume you do too, but I certainly prefer Alec Pierce to Josh Downs. But like in your build there, I mean, you're running out of options with him, right? You can do Josh Downs, and then you can do the tight end as well, right?
2 tight ends. They got Woods, and they drafted Will Mallory, who's pretty good in college.
Yeah, I mean, Woods, I think, is the kind of exciting option there. But yeah, I don't mind that with your build. I'm going to go ahead and make sure here's the really interesting thing, because I'm only going to get one more quarterback. Because what I normally do is take Tyquan Thornton. I take him all the time, but I don't want to do Mac Jones. I'm probably going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my double stack with Jordan Love. I'm going to tack on Jaden Reed here. I really wanted to click Thornton, but I'm not going to do Mac Jones. I think I'm going to do a Niners quarterback to be my third one. So I'm going to let Thornton go this time.
How's this for an esoteric take to throw out there that is relevant to Jordan Love thoughts? What if this year, Pete, Dontavian Wicks is the Romeo Dobbs to Jalen Reed's Christian Watson?
That seems pretty Galbraith. What round did they take him in?
Dontavian Wicks is free at the end of drafts. I did take him in a draft because I got scooped on Reed and got scooped on Dobbs and was like, well, I actually got scooped on Musgrave too. So I was like, all right, well, we got nothing left. I'll just take Dontavian Wicks for my one exposure I'll have the entire summer.
No, my question was, when did the Packers take him?
Oh, I think he was 5th or 6th. Definitely not, like a couple rounds after Jalen Reed was. He went pretty early.
Okay.
Oh, people are saying you got to take Trey Lance. Bolek wants you to take Trey Lance if you want his vote.
All right, let me see it in the chat. Tell me, I want to vote. Right, Lance, Purdy, or Darnold? I need to know. I need the chat to let me know.
This timing might be tough here, but if you want Pete to select one of these guys, please let him know. I feel like the public has to be Purdy friendly. Yeah, Josh, there we go. Josh already wrote Purdy friendly.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to select another wide receiver to buy us some more time.
Then you're going to get scooped on all the 49ers QBs. Yeah, Neil saying none.
Let me look at these votes. Purdy, Darnold, Purds, Lance, Purdy, Darnold, Lance, always Lance, Darnold, Lance.
Purdy seems to be
well, guys. I wish I could say this is the cheapest Lance is ever going to get, but I don't believe that. But we're taking it, baby. Pick 186, Trey Lance. Come on down.
I like that look, I reached for Anthony Richardson, and we can all agree, certainly an ADP difference between these two. We're getting our guys, Pete. I got Richardson. You got Trey Lance, 2 peers at quarterback.
Look at that. I mean, like I said, 0 Trey Lance shares yet in Best Ball Mania. I do think if you're going to get him, it needs to be in a 3 quarterback build. It needs to be when you have 2 other Niners already on the roster. I just want to thank the chat. I want to thank Bullock for saying that I would get his vote if I took Trey Lance. There you go.
I guess I'm going to complete my Giants double stack here, though. Hodgins, I feel like, is like, would you take Slayton later or Hodgins now if you were me?
I just would play the ADP game with the Giants wide receivers if the thesis is they're all in a similar tier.
All right. I mean, I like Mechie. No running backs here jumping out. I am going to take Hodgins here just because there's nobody who's screaming to me at this point. I also am going to pour a little bit more tequila because I've now run out, and I do want to make sure I'm actually celebrating Cinco de Mayo adequately, which, Pete, is Mexican Independence Day, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
I sure hope so. Otherwise, we're gonna get canceled. What kind of tequila are you drinking?
It is the Rock's Terramana Añejo, and the reason I bought this is because The Rock posted an Instagram a couple weeks ago of him having a tough day on the set, having his business meetings, and he said he was enjoying a nice sipping tequila for himself. And I was like, I could go for a sipping tequila, so here we
So
are.
you're telling me you literally got influenced by The Rock, like an actual Instagram ad just completely worked hook, line, and sinker on you?
It worked, yeah, worked pretty effectively, I would say. And you know what else worked effectively, Pete? You whoring out Chuba Hubbard at every turn. I'm taking him here as well to round out my running back room.
Love to hear it.
Good NFC South bet I've got there. I actually don't like Chuba as much. Obviously, we talked about in the stream. I also was reading some clips, basically talking about the running back room for Carolina. I know people think it's going to be a committee. Both Frank Reich and also the offensive coordinator for the Panthers, I'm blanking on, but comes from the Rams. Neither of them have really embraced committees much in the past. So I would say if you are going Chuba heavy, as Pete is this year's Benjamin, I still favor Miles Sanders by a good amount. And Miles Sanders is getting cheaper, and I just don't agree with it.
I actually want to clarify something. Yes, maybe the pounding of the drum is similar, but I actually think and I would say Pierce Strong is this year's Benjamin, where it's a guy that doesn't have a direct path to touches. It's unfair to Chuba to say he's this year's because he is going to have a role right out of the gate. And so they are different bets. I just want to clarify that for your
Had to roll out of the gate.
No, he didn't. He was buried.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the running back too. Who was getting some pass, like who was theoretically he had a role. He's gonna get some pass game work, and then they got kicked off the team. They got kicked off another team, and then he ended up.
I just want to tilt just a little bit here. I was completely ready to take Gesicki. Ramondre told me he wanted a friend on this team. Had him was staring at him, and this guy Kabak had to go and take his third tight end despite already having Waller and Schultz. But I get that he needed to value hound Gesicki, but I am tilting.
That's fair. Yeah, apparently also it is not Mexican Independence Day. It's an arbitrary American created day, created loosely on an event that happened in Mexico. And Bullock was saying that is their victory over the French, if he remembers correctly. And Bullock just got out of college, I think, yesterday. So that's about as accurate as can be.
And apparently we need to go back to college because Spags, as far as he knows, is doing the Tex-Mex version of Cinco de Mayo.
Also, by the way, we are crushing the time on these streams. So shout out to us, by the way. Shout out to this draft room for making it timely because a lot of these streams, people are searching around YouTube looking for best ball streams. They take over an hour. For us, we're going to be safely coasted under 50 minutes again.
I love to hear. I know Spags is OCD. If you want to vamp for a little bit at the end of the stream here, I'm happy to, Spags.
I want those views, baby. We're getting those views up. People want the shorter streams. I'm happy to do it because I know it's working right now. It's either you sit down for 5 hours or you go for 40 minutes if you can. So we'll get those clicks. We appreciate everybody who's watching now because a lot of new viewers coming over as a result of Pete's stuff and frankly some great thumbnails. Highest click rate on our last thumbnail, even though apparently
real quick, Spags, before you do your meta shit. What should I take? Is Terrace Marshall dead? Should I double stack Bryce Young or should I take a rookie like Nathaniel Dell or Cedric Tillman? Let me hear in the chat.
Take Terrace Marshall.
That's what I think because I want the double stack with Bryce Young there, but like Terrace Marshall ADP wise has just fallen off the face of the earth because he was a fairly popular 16th, 17th round pick in the big board. And now no one wants to take him anymore.
It's just because there isn't a certain role and they added the other guys, but like who's going to pass Adam Thielen? Probably Terrace Marshall. Who could pass DJ Chark? Probably Terrace Marshall. And Marshall and Mingo too are also completely different players where Marshall's more of a downfield guy who was one of the top guys in EPA per target. I know people don't swear by that as much as I do, but I can tell you there's a lot of back correlation that I swear by that after I did my digging on it, but also a top DVOA receiver. So I think Marshall ends up winning a role and people are not enthusiastic enough about him right now.
And again, one thing I really think before the NFL schedule is out, I'm just breaking every single tie in favor of team correlation. I don't think on my team now, I'm looking at my team. I have a one-off Mike Evans, a one-off Jaylen Warren, and a one-off Tony Pollard. And every single other team is represented at least twice on my roster. And that I'm just going to continue to hammer that until we have the schedule and we can think through different possible correlation angles.
Also, Pete, I will read off the teams at the end of the stream. So that'll be how we add a little more time here because a lot of people apparently, Pete, missed me reading off your team is what I learned last week. And I was trying to not drive the bit into the ground, but apparently I do have to give your team a thorough reading.
Yeah, I mean, people want to hear your editorializing, which, often there is slander, libel, defamation, kind of just within the tone of that reading. But I do think it now is something that people deserve.
All right, so let's read out Pete's team here. And of course, if you want to vote for Pete, you can vote 1. If you want to vote for my team, you can vote 2 in the chat. And we'll take a look here and try to make a ruling on who won this one. At quarterback, Pete has Jordan Love, Bryce Young, and of course, Trey Lance. At running back, Pete has Tony Pollard, bit of a reach. Ramondre Stevenson, a bit of a reach. Cam Akers, nice value hounding there. A.J. Dillon and Jalen Warren. The Peoples, Najee Harris. At wide receiver, Pete has Cooper Kupp, Christian Watson, Brandon Ayuk, a bunch of EPA all-stars there. Mike Evans, who's dust. Juju Smith-Schuster in a good spot. Jonathan Mingo, overrated. Jaden Reed, overdrafted. Terrace Marshall, undervalued. George Kittle and Hunter Henry at tight end. Both guys getting older by the week, Pete. I don't know if you know that one. On my team, though, youthful squad here. We have Anthony Richardson at a beautiful pick slot here of number 75.
Beautiful is one way to spin it.
Daniel Jones is a value pick at QB. At running back, youthful room led by Rashad White. Then some veteran savvy and Damian Harris. Leverage, and a guy who's got a role in Elijah Mitchell, Kendre Miller, Roshan Johnson, a little bit of a value. And of course, Chuba Hubbard, who's a player in the NFL. At receiver, we have Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, but no Miami stack to get different. Chris Olave, Drake London, Michael Pittman, Wan'Dale Robinson, Josh Downs, the better Zay Flowers, and Isaiah Hodgins, the man who will emerge from the Giants' 50 wide receivers. And then a tight end, we have an Evan Ingram and Jelani Woods. Chat, who won? People are saying Pete won. I don't know, man. Easy Pete dub. I disagree.
Hang on. What happened? We didn't even get to talk about it. Where did Tua go? I'm surprised because I assume you would have been all over that. Or was it because you were fucking chasing Anthony Richardson into the 4th round that you forgot to, I don't know, complete your double stack with your 2 first-round picks?
So Tua went at 91, which was about 4 picks after ADP, to this guy who drafted him with nobody stacked with him, which is the fun part of the drafts right now. No correlation at all for Tua. He just took him. I guess the former Dolphin correlation for Mike Gesicki here. But
Spags, yeah. I need, you know what? We had the Anthony Richardson conversation in a vacuum, but we can't have this conversation in a vacuum. You need to look into the camera. You need to go full screen, and you need to tell the audience you made a mistake not taking Tua with that pick there. If you're going to chase a guy up the board, it has to be the stack with your first 2 picks in this draft.
All right, so here's what I'm going to say, guys. At a certain point, you know, you have to think contrarian. So you see Jalen Waddle, you see Tyreek Hill, you see everybody and their mother lining up to draft Tua because they got those 2 receivers. But how do you get different? Who can beat Tua in week 17? I'll tell you who. 2 rushing QBs, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones outscored Tua for Pat Crane's $2 million winning team last year. He's going to do the same for mine this year. So yes, stack up your Dolphins, stack up your teams if you can, but also sometimes you can get completely different and get a potential top 3 QB. That's my apology, Pete. Does that suffice? Are you muted now? Did you mute yourself for this occasion?
Oh God, I muted myself to cough, and then I didn't get to do my smells like bullshit bit.
I think this team is solid here. We'll find out, though. Of course, Pete and I will be drafting these teams all year long or all summer long on Splash Play, returning on Tuesday at 10 a.m. 1 stream on Pete's channel, 1 stream here on Splash Play, back to back. We'll make it as easy as possible for you because Pete will redirect from his channel right to this one. So we'll hit 2 drafts in BBM4 on Tuesday. But Pete, what are your plugs here? What's coming up this weekend? You got some Best Ball After Dark with Daigle, right?
Yep, going to do Best Ball After Dark. So if you're a YouTube member on my channel, you can get access to that. That'll be at 9 p.m. tonight. Maybe I'll, toss back a few Modelos to celebrate what Spags calls Mexican Independence Day. I also recommend check out my P.O. Box post today, my newsletter. Even if you're not subscribed yet, you can read the post. It's on my Twitter feed, and please subscribe to that. And I kind of did an FAQ for my 150 stream drafts. I've been getting some questions there, so I outlined it all. Also explained the giveaway, which is still continuing on the second this stream ends. The second any stream where I'm drafting a Best Ball Mania team ends, leave a comment that will get you an entry into the $1,500 giveaway. And then I will be back myself on Monday morning for Best Ball Breakfast on my channel. And then Tuesday, Spags and I kick off our new early edition of Splash Play starting at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays.
Yeah, the double header coming up here. And check the pin comment down below if you're watching after the fact as well. If you haven't commented on some of Pete's previous BBM videos, those entries still count, right? If they comment on a previous one?
Yep, they can. And that's why I made the playlist too. So if you're a Johnny come lately, go back, watch the streams. They're in the playlist, leave the comments. It will be, you're still eligible.
And of course, subscribe here to Fantasy Football all year round, including that Tuesday stream with Pete. Friday, you'll be getting some solo Spags here. I'll be drafting some stacks and getting weird on here. Maybe sometimes I'll do a guest, but we'll find out. Either way, appreciate you guys watching. Follow Pete. Follow. There we go. That's the right way. Follow Pete at Peter Overzet. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow this show at Splash Play Pod. And of course, subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment so you can enter to win Pete's $1,500 going to 3 different people here for his march to 15,000 subs. Any final words, Pete, before I hit the outro?
Spags, what are you going to keep drinking throughout the rest of the day? Are you taking a nap? Are you getting some chips and guac? Are you taking your feet off the gas? The people need to know.
I think what will happen is I will probably chase the tequila with a little bit of something I call marijuana, something I've come up with a brand for that. And I'll probably hang out until like 6 and then sober up in time to go and hang out with the baby and put him to bed, give him a bath, a nice sober bath that will not murder him is the goal.
I love it. As I told you, Spags, I would have drank in solidarity. Lauren and I are going on our first date night post baby tomorrow night. You know, April was born early December, so I'm saving my my drinking up for tomorrow night.
As you should. And again, treat yourself. I hope you guys, if you're new parents out there, I know there's a lot of people having babies out in the world right now. I will say, as a veteran of the process of 1 year and change, treat yourself for those date nights. Make yourself feel good, because honestly, the pull on the other end will get you. Pete, I've never eaten more Wagyu in my life than I have on our date nights since we've had Luca, because you got to make it count when you finally get some time away.
Yeah, that's the yeah. I'm gonna get a nice big old steak, maybe a bottle of wine with dinner. You know, cocktail before. Who knows, Spags? Maybe a dessert cocktail. We're going all out.
Yeah, Pete, if he's not living a little in his drafts, Pete's living a little. Come tomorrow night on date night. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Good luck in your drafts. Go check out the puppy as well. 75K to first place. Use that promo code SPLASH to double your deposit up to $100 on Underdog. Play over there. Either you're doing BBM, you're doing puppies. A lot of fun either way. The puppy, of course, a $5 entry fee, so a lot more reasonable if you can't burn money like Pete and I do on these streams. We appreciate you guys. Enjoy your weekend. And of course, good luck. Bye.